Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're taking a truly fascinating story from folklore and breaking it down to pull out some real, actionable insights. We're going to look at a classic tale from the Indian subcontinent, the wit of Tenali Rama and the King's Riddles. Now, if you don't know him, Tenali Rama was a legendary poet and advisor, absolutely famous for his razor-sharp mind. But as we're going to see today, his stories, well, they aren't just clever little jokes. They hold some seriously timeless lessons about human nature and society that are honestly incredibly relevant to us right now.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, The King's Challenge.
And that kicks off with the first riddle, the shrinking thing.
So, picture this. Our story begins in the grand royal court of King Krishnadevaraya. Imagine a room packed with literally the sharpest minds, the highest-ranking advisors, and the most learned scholars in the entire kingdom. The king stands up and makes a huge announcement. He wants to test the intelligence of his courtiers, but he warns them right away. The question he is about to ask is not going to be easy. The stakes are instantly sky high, and the whole room is just buzzing with anticipation. He poses this exact riddle to the court. What is the thing that gets smaller the more you pull it? I want you to really think about that for a second. Put yourself in the shoes of those courtiers. Usually, when you pull something, it stretches. It gets longer. What on earth gets smaller?
Well, naturally, the courtiers just start panicking and shouting out the very first things that come to mind. They're totally focused on physical, everyday items. Someone yells out, "A rope." Another courtier chimes in, "Cloth." But the king immediately strikes both of these down. No way, they are dead wrong. Because think about it, pulling a rope or a piece of cloth doesn't actually make it smaller. Physical objects just don't typically work this way. They were focusing on the completely wrong kind of pulling.
The room falls completely silent. Nobody has a clue. And that is exactly when Tenali Rama stands up. While everyone else was scrambling and shouting out random materials, Tenali was thinking totally outside the box. His answer? The wick of a lamp. He delivers this with complete calm, which is just such a striking contrast to the hasty, frantic failures of his peers.
Let's break down the brilliant, practical logic of Tenali's answer, step by step, exactly how he explained it to the king. First, you pull the wick out of the lamp. Second, you cut the burned portion off, and the result? The wick becomes shorter. He took the verb pull and actually scratched the abstract thinking. He applied it to a highly specific, literal action in a traditional household. It's an incredibly practical way of thinking that completely bypassed all the confusion that trapped the other courtiers.
Which leads us to our next section, the second riddle, the world traveler.
So the king is highly impressed. He openly praises Tenali's cleverness. But he's not finished yet. He tells Tenali that the first one was just a simple puzzle. Now, he is really escalating the stakes. He's shifting gears from a tangible physical object to a much harder, entirely abstract concept. Let me ask you, are you ready to test your own wits against the king's second challenge? Here is the next question he throws at the court. What cannot walk by itself, yet can travel the whole world? It has 0 legs. It literally cannot take a single step under its own power, yet its reach is global. What is it?
Without missing a single beat, Tenali Rama answers. His response? News. Or in the original text, khabar. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive shift we've just seen. We moved from a simple, everyday lamp wick to a really complex societal observation. Tenali instantly understood that the king was no longer asking about household items. He had pivoted to asking about human behavior and how society functions.
The king just bursts into laughter, filled with his joyous realization that Tenali has nailed it again. He confirms Tenali is absolutely correct. Let's break down exactly why it works. Look at the mechanics of how information spreads. Step 1. News itself is an invisible concept. It obviously cannot move on its own. Step 2. It relies entirely on us. It passes from one person's mouth to another person's ear. And Step 3. Through that massive human chain, it eventually spreads across the entire kingdom. And honestly, the whole world. It's a literal viral mechanism, understood centuries before the internet even existed. It spreads like wildfire.
Bringing us to our final section, the lesson on rumors and truth.
Now this is where the explainer takes a much deeper turn. This story isn't just about a clever advisor winning a fun parlor trick. Tenali Rama uses this exact moment to pivot, transforming a simple riddle into a deeply profound observation about society. After the king agrees with him, Tenali smiles and delivers a really powerful warning to the entire court. So the crucial point is right here, in his own words. Caution is necessary, because as fast as news spreads, its form can change just as quickly. Just let that sink in for a moment. This is 16th century wisdom that perfectly diagnoses our modern-day struggle with media literacy, rumors, and viral misinformation. The faster something travels through the human chain, the more distorted the original truth becomes.
The king looks out at his completely silent courtiers. He realizes the immense value of what just happened. He announces to everyone that Tenali Rama hasn't just passed a test of intelligence today, he has taught the entire royal court an absolutely indispensable real-world lesson. For this incredible dual display of wit and wisdom, the king presents Tenali with a grand reward.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core takeaway from our source text today. The story leaves us with a direct, powerful moral, broken down into two very actionable steps for all of us. Number one, do not believe immediately. When you hear something sensational, just hit pause. Number two, verify the truth of the news first. In a world where news travels faster than ever before, this ancient advice is without a doubt our absolute strongest defense against misinformation. Which brings us to our final thought for today. The underlying mechanisms of the world haven't really changed, only the speed at which they operate has. When you scroll through your feed today or hear a crazy sensational story from a friend, I want you to remember Tenali Rama and the King's Riddle. So I leave you with this question to ponder. Do you verify the khabar, the news you hear, before letting it travel further? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this breakdown helped clarify a timeless story for you, and I really hope it helps you navigate our fast-paced world with just a bit more wisdom. Catch you next time.